Tell me, why would you invite a mushroom to a party?
Oh, I don't know. Well, this is a PG episode, so it depends what kind of mushroom it is. I don't know.
So welcome to Unleash Learning TV and Unleash Learning Radio. Now, there's something to remember, and that's this. Positive emotions prime people for learning. In fact, if you want to make learning stick for everyone, these are the magic emotions to tap into, which can help make this happen. So to help, we've brought Jo Maloney to the show. Now, she's spent over 30 years working in early childhood and in community sectors, and her new book, Wellbeing Science in Early Childhood Education, is out. Now, she's going to share with you why positive emotions are so important to learning and how you can activate them to make learning stick for everyone, whether you're in early childhood or university or high school, whatever it is, this episode is for you. So, Jo, welcome to Unleash Learning TV.
Thanks, William.
I've got your book here. I talk about your book. And as I told you earlier in the email, we were talking earlier, I just came back from the US. So I'm just getting over jet lag. And I got to work with educational leaders all over Southern California. And we were looking at the difference between a delivery model of education and a systems approach that makes learning stick, which is what we do. And during the work, positive emotions, that discussion came up. So it was like the perfect time to be doing this episode when I came back, because we had some really great discussions about what that's about. So that's why you're here.
Right.
So let's just jump deep dive. Now, I know you focus on early childhood, but when I read your book, I was like, gosh, so much of this is applicable, right? Learning is learning is learning. So why are positive emotions so important to learning?
So when we think about the conditions that we want to create for learning, they're kind of wide and varied, but positive emotion actually supports so many of these conditions that we want to create, like in the space of cognitively, socially, psychologically, even physiologically. Like it actually builds those capabilities to really set us up kind of for learning. And a lot of this work comes from Barb Fredrickson and her colleagues. That's captured in broaden and build theory. So it's the brain's capacity to broaden and puts, and keeps building. So more areas of our brain light up when we experience positive emotion. So that's where we kind of, see those impacts, including our broadening of our mind to greater possibilities and opportunities. It increases intrinsic motivation. And I can see a lot of teachers kind of at that going, yes, we want more intrinsic motivation. I want to stop feel like I'm nagging my students all of the time. It also kind of builds grit, so those wanting to keep going when encountering failures or challenges, with this new learning, I can now do this. Sort of prompts all those extra thoughts and that flexibility in those thought processes as well. And also too, to kind of think outside the square, which is great when we think about learning. We don't want students to, long gone are the days of rote learning that we just want students to absorb all of our great knowledge that we have. We want them to
stick.
Exactly. We want it to stick and then to really engage in their learning. And all of that, William, that's so much of your work. When we see others experience positive emotion, we're more likely to experience positive emotion. And then what we're open to is building more connections. So it supports collaborative learning too. We know that sort of supports learning to stick as well. And increases our focus and attention. And again, it's probably another point that, teachers are going, we need more focus and attention. The other thing it supports in is our stress response. So, when we encounter stress, we have that, sympathetic nerve system kicks in and we go into that fight, flight, or freeze, which is great if we need to be in that state.
When we need it, but we don't need it all the time.
When we need it.
Yeah.
So we don't want to be in that state all of the time. So we don't want to be in that chronic stress state all of the time. So having that baseline of higher levels of positive emotion allows us to, go back to calm and be open for learning. And positive emotion, they feel good.
Yeah. So let me ask this next question, Jo, because I'm guessing this is what some of the audience is thinking right now. They're like, Oh my gosh. So now I gotta be positive all the time. Like I gotta be happy all the time. So what's your response to that? 'Cause we're human beings. Like I can't be all rah, rah, rah.
And I think too, it probably feels like people going, oh, there's another thing we've got to do. Now we're going to be happy all the time. But actually, no, we don't. And Barb Fredrickson actually in her research, she warns against this and she talks about toxic positivity. So that Pollyanna-ish of going, oh, yeah, no, it's all fine. I'm fine. It's all great. And you kind of go, well, actually, that's not life and that's not how it works. That we don't want to also fall into the trap of thinking, okay, positive emotions are good, therefore negative emotions are bad.
Exactly. Right. We need all of them.
We need all of them.
All of them. Right.
Yeah. What we also need in that all of them is to become more nuanced around all of them, and to be able to notice, identify, because what that helps us to do. So we talk about emotional granularity. And what we talk about when we're talking about emotional granularity is being able to pick out the positive. Because what our brain does is goes, oh, okay, there's all these fabulous things that happened over the day. There's one crappy thing.
Yes.
That's what I'm going to focus on. So what that does is allows us to be in a position to draw out those positives. Barb also gives a really good analogy that I love that is really, I find really helpful for me, and I'm hoping others might find it helpful as well. And I've got this in my book. It is an analogy of a sailing boat.
Which is one of our metaphors at Unleashed Learning. So I'm already happy.
Yep.
Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
So the parts under the boat, particularly the keel of the boat, represent negative emotion. So what a keel does on a boat is actually keeps the boat steady. It stops it from tipping over and it supports it in keeping its course. Also, what we need is the sail and the bits above the water to propel the boat forward. There's a whole lot more above the water than there is below the water.
Yes.
So that's the kind of ratio that we want. We want a whole lot more positive to the negative, and knowing that the negative can help us keep on track. But also, too, if the keel's too big for the boat, if we get a build-up of barnacles and all that kind of crap on the keel, it can drag the boat down. It can mean that it's not as easy to steer and keep its track. And we need to think about that in the case of negative emotions also, that it needs addressing. If there's too much negative, then we need to support in that space as well. It's important too that when we do experience those times of negativity, that we don't go, okay, we're just going to do all this positive emotion stuff, that we kind of forget about those other supports that are needed when those times arise. Yeah.
So let's go to the next question, because I think there's so much to delve into here. So we work with schools and businesses to embed the system. And one of the things that we do when we bring this to the locations is we do what we call leadership from the inside out, or teaching from the inside out, right? And there's a deep connection between who we are and how we teach and lead. And for some people, that is the first time they've really thought about that. And they push back sometimes, or they're curious. So when I was thinking about this, I want to know, why as educators and leaders, why should we be thinking about our own emotions when we're like helping the world, but you're saying, what about our own world? Why do we need to think about our own emotions?
So I think this is all kind of leading from within. And like I mentioned before, that emotional granularity is really differentiating our emotions. But what that actually does, it increases our emotional regulation. So, we're in a better position then to be able to create those conditions and those learning spaces and opportunities for those that we're teaching. And then also too, when you think about that other, that leadership position, also looked at as being more compelling and effective, and they boost team morale. We've all worked in or come across people in positions that haven't necessarily done too much of that inner work.
Yeah.
And create a very tense or negative environment that it's easy for everyone to get caught up in that.
Yeah.
So thinking about those emotional exchanges that we have, again, thinking about that ratio and having more, more positive than negative, those practices, they boost that emotional contagion. And we want a positive emotional contagion, because we know emotions are contagious.
Yes.
So we want the good ones to catch,
Yeah.
not the negative ones. Because what we're doing in that space then is that we're creating this upward spiral of growth that uplifts everybody, energizes everybody in that space. So we want to think about, okay, what emotional contagion do I want to create and spread? But also, too, it needs to start with that reflection of noticing what's happening for you and drawing those positive ones out for yourself.
It's a great reminder. We talk about this all the time in Unleashed Learning, but is that it's such a relationship about to be of service is really, as an educator, my students became my greatest teachers because they would mirror back who I was in the world. And I think, part of this, I just hope people are thinking this isn't about, oh, I'm bad because I feel this. It's about having a vocabulary and literacy about who we are. And also, what I'm really lucky about is I'm around people like you and other colleagues that we don't have to do this alone. Because some days we're not, some days maybe the balance is off, but we have other people that are helping to keep us all buoyant, right? So it's not a individualistic piece all the time. So let's talk about we, which is a good connection. Okay. A lot of times, like I was saying, it's like we got to do it ourselves. So I'm curious, as a team, like, how do we embed this we you talk about in the book, help that positivity, those positive emotions in our team, so we do that together and it's not one more thing just on our own?
Yeah, to me, this is the fun part.
Yeah.
And luckily, so many of these things don't actually need a great amount of time or resources to be able to do. Winning. And they're probably things that people have heard of, but it's about thinking about them more explicitly and thinking about how to sort of make them stick.
Yeah.
So one well-researched approach is expressing gratitude. So there's lots of different ways we can do this. We need to be authentic and genuine. We can't just go, oh, yeah, I'm grateful for,
the intention behind it.
So the intention, the authenticity in that. Yep. Being really specific in what it is that you're grateful for and making sure it's different every time. Otherwise, it just becomes a bit like rote learning, I'm grateful for my health. But you can go, okay, I'm grateful for my health, but I'm grateful for my health because it allows me to go for a walk in nature, and I love walking in nature. It allows me to play the sport that I like to play. It allows me to be well enough to go and visit an aging relative or friend. So being more nuanced in, yes, you can say the same thing, but thinking about, the applications of that when you're expressing that gratitude.
Can I just pause for 1 second, because I knew this episode was coming. In Southern California, what the director did is the introduction, she passed this thing around, and to introduce, she did say, can you say your name, your role, and one thing right now you're grateful for?
Yeah.
And it spread. I mean, what happened spread, but the conditions were there, and we watched. People had come in with traffic, but I felt the energy shifting.
Yeah.
And they gave very specific examples, and sometimes it was to each other.
Yeah. And that was the other thing too. This can be a general thing or to each other. And I think too, that's a perfect example of creating those conditions.
Yes.
That does make those shifts. And we can make that conscious shift from the inside to go, okay, how do I choose to start my day? So, yep, I've had a stressful morning. I lost my keys and got stuck in traffic and whatever else. But I can make those shifts and can share that with others to allow and support them to make those shifts as well. So which kind of feeds into another one that I love is daily delights. So sharing what has brought you joy or delight for the day. And it might be a win that one of your students has had, something they've achieved, something that they've been working really hard on, and sharing that with others. Whether you're sharing it verbally, you might have a notice board in the staff room that you'll pin your daily delights to, or you might have, use some kind of online platform, Yammer or Slack or something like that. Another way to sort of boost that positive emotion as a we is to be playful and have fun, have a laugh,
That's what I'm all about.
Absolutely.
I'm all about. Yeah.
So William, on that then, if you're all about that, tell me.
Yeah. Yes, good question. Go for it.
Tell me, why would you invite a mushroom to a party?
Oh, I don't know. Well, this is a PG episode, so depends what kind of mushroom it is. I don't know. Why would you invite a mushroom to a party?
Because he's a fun guy to be around.
Okay, I got to think about that.
So thinking about things like that, how you're going to
Yeah.
share jokes, have a bit of fun. You might do Meme Monday and
Yes.
share a meme, or Feel Good Friday. That's what I do on my social media. I share a Feel Good Friday. So anything that kind of boosts positive emotion, so people can steal that if they like, and share that with each other. Share some, funnies. I have a little joke tin on my desk, and if I kind of need a bit of a boost, I'll, give it a shuffle and pick out one. But you might like to create your own joke jar. Have it on the staff room table. Everyone put their jokes in it.
I love it.
And be really bad dad jokes, or whatever that you can put in there.
It makes you think of, Joe, I just have to flag this, is it also makes me think that the values of a team, one is playfulness. I mean, it is, and I have to be careful because you would say overplay. I know it's
Yep.
to use it, but the value is a part of that as well, so that people can do this together, and there's a mutual conversation, and also for the reason why. So if our mission is to make learning stick for everyone, these are really tools that help us get to that mission. So I think the mission and vision and the values are really important in this conversation. We've got two last questions, so I'm just mindful of time here.
Yeah.
Give us one example of a classroom practice. So as educators, how we're bringing that positivity or positive emotions into our learning space. I know you're in early childhood, but I think it's applicable anywhere. So could you give an example of that?
Yeah. Well, I think you can use all those ones that we just talked about.
Yes.
Easy transfer into the classroom, and thinking of one, maybe identifying what's working well. Yeah. This can then be transferred, really thinking about, to be critical about your teaching and your learning, to look at what's working well and why. So why is it working well? So it gives you an opportunity to be critical about your teaching, invite your students to be critical about their learning, and really pull out what's working well and why is it working well. So you kind of acknowledge that and get that opportunity for a boost of positive emotion between what's working well. And the other one, I know you said one.
That's okay. Yeah, go.
There's one more that I think is really, really helpful, is smiling. When your students walk into your classroom, when you walk around your school, smile is just a beautiful way and so easy to have a boost of positive emotion for everyone. The person smiling, the person receiving the smile,
it's kind of contagious.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a beautiful emotional contagion.
Yeah. When I was a high school teacher, and we used to do a lot of public speaking with the kids, and that was a big fear. So what we would do, tell the student only what he or she did well.
Oh, beautiful.
And all they would ever hear is what they did well, because over time, everyone would hear what makes for a good speech. You didn't have to hear what didn't. So and they became better speakers, and they became more confident, because it was clear when they didn't do well, but we just would highlight it, and they got better and better and better. So I just was thinking about, okay, let's do some quick rapid fire questions. First one is favorite teacher you had?
Oh, really hard. I had lots of great teachers, but one that kind of sticks out is my chemistry teacher. This is not a strong subject of mine at all. Yeah. But she stopped and answered questions as you went. And I'm sure a lot of my questions I didn't verbalise, they were here. But look at my face. Always had fabulous, authentic answers, and everyone had that same opportunity. It was great. Yeah.
I love that. Person who has most influenced your learning journey?
That's hard because it continues. It's been going for a very long time now. My learning journey, and continues. But two that kind of stick out to me, I was very privileged to work with two beautiful mentors for 11 years, and they always thought outside the square for whether extending learning of individual children, whether it was ways to manage and engage community and family. Also, too, there were so many opportunities for positive emotion. We expressed in that space. Gratitude was expressed daily. We had fun, we, celebrated the ordinary things, the simple things, and, it was playful, it was beautiful space.
You remember the emotions. The emotions. Last question is, of all the stuff you do, what are you really trying to get to stick?
I suppose that building and increasing your positive emotion is worth the investment. The benefits for your well-being, and to be able to then therefore increase your learning and teaching capacity. And you only need to do small things, which, we talk about micro moments.
That's right.
Over the day, small things over the day, and you just need to start and enjoy the benefits.
Well, I'm going to say this is my micro moment. This is my micro moment. So, Jo, thank you so much. We will make sure people know about this fantastic book. And thank you for being part of this.
Thanks, William. I really enjoyed it.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye,
Thank
Jo.
you. Bye.
So we now have a question for you, and we want to know what's something that you do to support positive emotions in your teaching or leadership. Some of the best conversations take place after the episode, so jump over there, join the conversation, grab your free ebook, and together we can make learning stick for everyone.